shared yesterday, and we wanted somebody else to share the norms who has not had a time. Zalia, can you share the class norms with us? I'm going to pull it up. Tell us what we should be doing when we come together for class. Unmute yourself and let me know if you can see it. I tried to pull it up on my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, Zalia, tell us about number 1. What does it say?
It says, begin on time.
Very good. Tell us about number 2. What does it say?
Turn cameras on.
All right, good job, Zalia. Go to number 3. What does it say?
Keep mics on mute until the teacher calls you to talk.
All right, now go to number 4. What does number 4 say?
Sit up straight.
Focus.
Focus and participate in class.
Girl, you did that like a champ. Those the class norms, boys and girls. Norms are the rules that we follow when we come together for class. The norms are the rules, boys and girls. So thank you, Zalia, for sharing the norms. Thank you for coming back on time. Dalia, thank you for coming back on time. And Brooke, thank you for coming back on time. So I think Anthony's trying to get in. Let's see if we can call him before we start our shared reading. All right. Who else do we need? We need to see if we can call JC back in. And let's see if we can call Liana back in before we start our shared reading. All right.
JC was connected with us, but for some reason she clicked back off. So maybe she's trying to.
Okay.
You know how she got her little stuff going on with the blanket and.
Okay. Okay. Well, it says they're connecting, and while we're waiting for them to connect, I'm going to go ahead and start our shared reading because it's kind of a long story. And you guys have heard this. It's called Sheila Ray the Brave. Hey, JC, welcome back. Sheila Ray the Brave. And this is also by Kevin Hinks. He's the author. Guess what? Kevin Hinks wrote this story that we've been reading this week. He wrote Chrysanthemum. See, he's the author of Chrysanthemum, Kevin Hinks. Look at Chrysanthemum. And now I want you to look at Sheila Ray. Do they kind of look alike to you? They look alike to me. They look like they're the same animal. JC, unmute yourself and tell me what kind of animal do you think Sheila Ray is?
Okay. She is a mouse, like Chrysanthemum.
Okay, yeah. Now look at Chrysanthemum. They look like they're both mice. Good job. All right, let's get started. You can mute yourself, JC. Sheila Ray the Brave. Kevin Hinks, he's the author. He wrote this story. And it says, Sheila Ray wasn't afraid of anything. She wasn't afraid of the dark. She wasn't afraid of thunder and lightning. Look at that. She's not afraid of thunder and lightning, or she's not afraid of the dark. Excuse me. And she wasn't afraid of the big black dog at the end of the block. At dinner, Sheila Ray made believe that the cherries in her fruit cocktail were the eyes of dead bears. and she ate 5 of them. When she was eating dinner, she pretended that the cherries were bear's eyes. And so she ate 5 cherries. And when her classmate Wendell stole her jump rope during recess, Sheila Ray tied him up until the bell rang. "I am very brave," Sheila Ray said, patting herself on her back. Sheila Ray stepped on every crack on the sidewalk without fear. When her sister Louise said that there was a monster in the closet, Sheila Ray attacked it. And she rode her bicycle with no hands and her eyes closed. "Yay, yay, Sheila Ray," her friends yelled. They were clapping their hands. One day, Sheila Ray decided to walk home from school a new way. She said, I'm gonna go a new way today." Louise was afraid to do it. Her little sister was afraid to go home a new way. "You're too brave for me," Louise said. Look at Louise. She's afraid. And she told Sheila Ray, "You're too brave." Guess what Sheila Ray said to Louise? She said, "You're always such a scaredy cat." "I'm not," whispered Louise. Sheila Ray called her sister Louise a scary cat. And Louise said, I'm not a scary cat." Sheila Ray started off skipping. "I am brave," she sang to herself. "I am fearless." She stepped on every crack. She walked backwards with her eyes closed. She growled at the stray dogs, and she bared her teeth at the stray cats. She was not afraid. And she pretended that the trees were evil creatures. So she climbed up them and she broke their fingers off. Snap, snap, snap. Sheila Ray walked and walked, and she turned corners. She crossed the streets. It suddenly occurred to Sheila Ray that nothing looked familiar. We talked about that word familiar before. That's when you know something. Like you can retell familiar stories. Well, in this story, they say familiar. Nothing looked familiar. Sheila Ray was walking and she didn't know what anything was. She said, "Oh, I've never seen that store right there. I've never seen that playground. I've never seen that rock and those trees." So nothing was familiar. Sheila Ray heard frightening noises. They sounded worse than thunder. She heard noises that frightened her. That means it scared her. She thought some horrible thoughts. She was thinking bad things. They were worse than anything she had ever imagined. "I am brave," Sheila Ray tried to say to herself. "I am fearless." Look at her face. She's trying to say she's brave, but look at her face. Oh my goodness. The sounds became more frightening, and her thoughts became more horrible. Sheila Ray sat down on a rock and she cried, "Help! Help!" She sniffed. Look at her. She's crying help. She thought of her mother and her father, and she thought of Louise. "Mother! Father! Louise!" she cried. "Here I am," a voice said. A voice said, "Here I am. Look, it's her sister Louise." "Louise!" Sheila Ray hugged her sister. "We're lost," Sheila Ray said. "No, we're not," said Louise. "I know the way home. Follow me." Louise stepped on every crack. She walked backwards with her eyes closed. Now Louise is doing the things that Sheila Ray was doing at first. She growled at the stray dogs and she bared her teeth at the stray cats. She's copying everything that Louise did. And she pretended that the trees were evil creatures. She jumped up and she broke their fingers off. Snap, snap, snap. Sheila Ray walked quietly behind her. Sheila Ray was still upset. That's why she's so quiet, because she thought she was lost. They walked and walked, and they crossed the streets, and they turned the corners. Soon, their house could be seen between the trees. They saw the house. Sheila Ray grabbed Louise, and she dashed up the street. When they say something dashed, that means they moved really fast. They went fast up the street. And when they reached their own yard and the gate was closed behind them, Sheila Ray said, "Louise, you are so brave and you are so fearless." Remember when Sheila Ray called Louise a scaredy cat? Well, now she's saying, "Louise, you're brave and you're fearless." "We both are," said Louise, and they walked backwards into the house with their eyes closed. And that is the end of Sheila Ray the Brave. Oh, I want to talk about some things in this book. We've been talking about characters. We've been talking about the beginning, the middle, and the end of stories. We haven't talked about the feelings, but we can talk about it today. All right. Anthony, unmute yourself. And first, let's talk about the characters. Who was in this story? Who are the characters? Who was the story about? Anthony, who was in the story? Who was the author telling us about? Think about it, Anthony. What was the story about, Anthony? All right, Anthony, we're going to get somebody to help you. All right, Delia, can you unmute your mic? Can you help Anthony out? Tell him who the characters are or what the story is about, was about.
It's about it's about her being brave, cause she called her sister a scaredy cat.
That's right. That's what it was about. Can you think of who the characters are, Delia? Who are the characters in this story? Let's see if we can get JC to help you. Thank you, Delia, for telling us what it was about. JC, can you remember